The next 15 minutes or so, we are going to be chatting about Marcus Rashford, and in particular his recent form. 11 games without a goal. He's not found the net since the 3-0 win at Tottenham on the 30th of October. His all-round performances have also taken a serious dip. Some fans have questioned his body language and effort. Dion Dublin said that he looked disinterested during the win versus Villa. Now, last season, let's face it, it was a tough one for Rashford. He was playing through injury for long periods, so much so that he missed the start of this season in order to undergo a shoulder operation. And since returning, for me personally, and I think for other United fans, he's looked nowhere near that player from prior to his injury issues. So we're asking tonight, what is wrong with Marcus? We've got a couple of fans on to chat to us about this. We've got Arun on, and we've got Johnny as well. Arun, just going to come to you first, mate, and ask you about the point that Dion Dublin made. Do you think that Marcus Rashford looks disinterested at the moment?
I'm very, very happy with the choice of word made here, because every time Anthony Martial had the same problem, we always had the same thing, question his attitude and disinterested. I'm not too sure what's wrong with Marcus' personal life. He has all my sympathy for that. But we as fans don't want it to affect his sporting life, his life on the field, on the pitch. We love Marcus for a couple of things. That if he's not playing well, if he's not scoring goals, at least he put in effort, at least he runs till 90th minute, defend, help the left back, chase the ball. But last few months, not only this season, at the end of last season as well, last few months have been terrible. I mean, I have been disappointed by Marcus. He's not putting in effort. He looks like he is a CR7, but he is not a CR7. But his name is too big now. So the player, I mean, he is not that smart. He's not that elite, that's for sure. But the question was, could he be? So we were looking forward to this season, but it didn't happen, apparently. That was disappointing to hear.
Yeah, and I think it's a very interesting comparison that you made to Anthony Martial there, Arun, because I almost think that me included here, maybe we're being slightly hypocritical. And with Marcus Rashford, we give him more leeway, maybe it is because he is a local lad and we know he supports Manchester United. When he puts in these performances that are described as disinterested, as we do with players like Anthony Martial. So I want to go to Johnny on that point. Johnny, do you think we're maybe being a little bit too nice to Marcus Rashford at the minute? And if it was another player putting in these performances, they'd be getting a lot more stick.
I have to say I completely disagree.
Okay.
Look, Anthony Martial, I like him as a player as well, but the thing is that the question over his effort has been a thing that we've had over multiple seasons. This is the first time we've ever questioned Rashford's, attitude and his effort. All the other times he's played through the seasons for us with injuries. He's putting up numbers whilst playing for us with injuries. He's got 70 goal involvements in the last 2 seasons, whilst playing with a back injury, a shoulder injury, an ankle injury. He's committed to this club. He's a Manchester lad. He wants the best for Manchester United at all times. And I think at the moment what we're seeing is just a bit of a physical and mental burnout on him. You've got to think how much he's played in the last 2 seasons. Going to England, playing through injury with England, missing the penalty, and all this sort of stuff has its toll on him. And are we giving him a bit of an easy ride? I don't think so. I think this is what we should be doing. We should be getting behind our players and supporting them and wanting them to get back to their best form, because we know how good he is when he's on his best form.
I totally agree with you, Johnny, in terms of getting behind your players. I never like it when fans of a club, and I say that for City fans as well, attack their own players, and I never like it. But Johnny, I've got to pull you up on a couple of things you said there in terms of how much he's played in the last 2 years. He's not the only one, though. There's a lot of Premier League games, a lot of European games, a lot of international games, a lot of players playing as many games as Marcus Rashford and going through as many difficulties as Marcus Rashford as well. So surely you can't really use that as an excuse.
Well, I'd counter that by saying that all this kind of, playing as much as possible affects different players in different ways. You see how Bruno Fernandes is, comfortable playing as many games as possible, but that doesn't necessarily go to say the same for Marcus Rashford, who we can't deny he's had injury issues and he's having to play through these injury issues. Someone like Maguire, he plays a lot of minutes. Luke Shaw, you're now sort of seeing as well in this season how it's sort of perhaps affecting them as well. So I think it's fair enough to say that, because he has played a lot of games, and you're seeing a lot of players who have come back from the Euros, who have played 60-game seasons and then gone to the Euros with their country. This season, a lot of those players are sort of having a fall off in form.
A little bit earlier, Arun, you mentioned you don't know what's going on in Marcus Rashford's personal life, and I'm not going to speculate on that or what he's thinking about at the minute or his mental state. However, last season it was quite obvious that he was maybe struggling because of the injury. Do you think that could just be the case this season, that it is just purely a fitness issue?
I don't know. I think he returned late in October after the Euros. He got his rest. I was hoping to see a new charged up Marcus Rashford. Maybe it's the mental fatigue more than the physical fatigue from the Euros and exhaustion from the last 2 years. But this is not a valid excuse for him. I'm sorry. I'm all for backing my players. I love him. We love him too much sometimes because I look at Mason Greenwood. He is on his way to become another Marcus Rashford. He also thinks his name is too big for the club. I mean, he also thinks he's a superstar already. He doesn't care for his teammates, doesn't pass, doesn't run enough. So Rashford needs to set an example that you didn't make it yet. You didn't make it yet. You are still not consistent starting 11 player for us right now. You have to make it. You have to be an example for the young ones at least. I'm afraid for Greenwood as well.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
You want to get Johnny's thoughts on that Arun just mentioned then, saying that Marcus Rashford needs to be a bit more of an example to the other players, and maybe Mason Greenwood's going down the same route of already thinking that he's made it when he's really not. Johnny, what do you make of that?
Again, I find it a bit questionable when you sort of look at all these players who come through our academy and how highly they speak of Marcus Rashford. Even players who aren't even playing at Manchester United, sort of the England boys, they look at Marcus Rashford as an inspiration. Saka's mentioned it in the past, Jadon Sancho's mentioned it in the past, Jude Bellingham. All of these players look to Rashford as their role model, and he's done it at such a young age. It's hard to forget that Rashford's still only 24 years old. Players don't hit their peak until they're sort of late 20s, and there's this expectation nowadays that players have to be their best form and their best version of themselves at 24, 25 years old. Look at the likes of Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah. At 25 years old, I'm pretty sure Salah was still playing at Fiorentina. Sadio Mane was at Southampton. Players hit their peaks later on into their career, and I think it's a lot of noise at the moment about Rashford, and he isn't playing well. I'm not saying that he is playing well, but players go through bad form all the time, and he'll learn from this and develop better as a player because of it. I'm sure of it.
Johnny, are they looking at him as a role model because of the man that he is and the things that he does off the pitch? Because obviously that is second to none. Nobody can question him as a man and what he has done for the world, for the country, off the pitch. Are they looking at him as a role model for that, or are they looking at him as a role model for what he does on the pitch? I
think it's a bit of both, to be honest, because you see how when he came back from, I think it was like his second season with Mourinho, and he was a bit of a, still a skinny teenager, and then in that one season, he just bulked up and he became this really good athlete, which has then, perhaps allowed him to play through these injuries, whether that's good or not. But then off the field as well, that's exactly right. They've got to be looking up to him in terms of what he does off the field, because he is the setting example of what a footballer can do with the position that they are in terms of his charity work and, speaking up on all these matters. And I think anybody who sort of uses that as a way to criticise him and say that he's not fully focused on his football, needs to take a serious look at themselves, because most of these other footballers, they're doing their 4 or 5 hours of training a day, and they're going back home to their, fancy houses and just sitting there playing PlayStation. Rashford's getting there and doing, on the forefront of this charity work. He's putting himself out there, and he's doing what's right for everybody.
And Johnny, also, I've read reports as well recently that Marcus Rashford's spending up to 12 hours on the training pitch some days just because he's so intent on getting himself to the peak of fitness, taking a lot of...
So what is it, guys?
Honestly, I have absolutely no idea what it is. I feel like it's not a fitness issue at this point. I feel like it's maybe a confidence issue. But Arun, look, let's talk about... his actual ability and his actual potential. Let's forget recent form. Let's take, let's not have recency bias affect our judgment too much here. How good do you think Marcus Rashford still can be if he doesn't start doing the right things now?
You will not like it, but I've been saying this since last year I've spoken to you. I think we have seen the best of Rashford last season, number-wise. I don't think he will exceed 20 goals a season and 15 assists a season. And now I expect Rashford to make those bad decisions. I expect him when he's on with the defenders. I expect him to run into traffic. I expect him not to make the right pass. and I expect him to shoot from any point, anytime, from any place in the field. So I don't have much expectations from him to be any higher than 20 goals a season.
Aaron, I wasn't expecting that.
Strong words. And Johnny, do you sit on the other side of the fence to this? I claimed, I think it was less than a year ago, that Marcus Rashford will be a world-class player. Personally, I'm starting to doubt that now. But what level do you think he can reach?
Oh, yeah, I like you say, I am completely on the other side of the fence. You look at the numbers that he's been putting up the past 2 seasons whilst playing through injury, whilst playing in a dysfunctional Manchester United side. He's been putting up, 70 goal involvements over the past 2 seasons whilst playing through these injuries. He's still only 24 years old. He's got all the attributes. He's got the pace. He's got the skill. He can play passes. We've seen him make some amazing sort of weighted passes into other forwards' runs. He's got loads of, abilities within his game. And just because he's going through one bad form, at the moment, I think people have a lot of recency bias when it comes to this sort of thing. Look at what he's done for us in the past. These last-minute winners against PSG, in the Premier League and stuff like that. He has the ability, and I think he will deliver on it. I think just right now he's in a bit of a rut, and everyone's sort of, we're not liking how it's going at Manchester United at the moment, and everyone wants to find, reasons for it. And I think he's just copping a lot of flack, which is, in my opinion, unnecessary.
It's very interesting debate.